What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey Xavier here, and on today's edition of Gear Gods Quality Control, we're bringing you the third installment of our mini pedal shootout series, this time with Overdrive pedals. So I've got 10 of the best mini Overdrive pedals on the market today, and we're going to put each and every one of them through its paces to give you an idea of what each one sounds like in a metal context for both rhythm and lead guitar. And then you're going to have a chance to go back and forth between them using the clickable annotations in the video, and then you can decide which one you think is going to be right for your pedal board. And I'm going to pick one that I think works best for my style, and that one's going to go on my fly rig pedal board, which is the point of these videos. I'm putting together my personal pedal board just full of mini pedals that I would take to a gig where I have to fly in an airplane and I can't take like a whole hell of a lot of stuff. So buckle up, here we go. So before I start to talk in detail about each of these pedals, it's important that you understand how it is that I use an overdrive pedal for my music. So a lot of people use them in a lot of different ways, and my way might be different from yours, which could leave you kind of confused as to why I made certain choices for certain pedals or whatever. So basically, I use an overdrive pedal as a combination boost and sort of tonal control center for my rig. I generally use the tone knob to sort of give a little more cut by turning it. I generally have it like somewhere between like, 2 and 3 o'clock, somewhere in there, depending on the kind of amp that I'm using, sometimes more, sometimes less. And I pretty much always have the level or volume really high or close to all the way up, sometimes just dimed. For most of these videos, I just turned it all the way up because there's no chance of feedback since it's a closed signal. That pretty much juices the front end of whatever amp I'm playing through, gives it a nice saturation without getting too fuzzy, and also allows the sound to cut. Cuts out a lot of the fat from the low end, which I think is really important to getting a nice crunchy guitar sound. So I didn't use that much of the gain for any of these because the point wasn't so much to add distortion, although I often did use just a touch. I'm not really sure why. It just sounds better. It gives it a little more, character, a little more harmonic saturation or something. I don't know. It's a little bit of magic. So keep that in mind for everything I'm going to say next because it's pretty important. So we started with the SL Drive from Xotic Effects, and this is meant to be like a clone of a Marshall Super Lead type of sound. Now, it's probably the most expensive of the bunch. It feels the most solid, mostly just because it's the heaviest. It's got this kind of super tough metal casing that feels like you could probably drop it off a building and it would be fine. It has 3 knobs, typical to most overdrive pedals: volume, drive, and tone. And then it also has a series of internal switches that allow you to set it to a couple different settings. Now, I didn't really go through them. I just picked my favorite and went with that. And obviously, you have to remove the bottom to hit the switches. There's 4 of them, and in different combinations, they give you different sounds. And there's this handy guide on the back that actually tells you which is which. So it's pretty flexible. Maybe the most flexible of the bunch, actually, because of that. Although I liked the way that it sounded, I don't think it really fit for my purposes. And the reason is just that it didn't seem to have that much low cut or high pass, depending on how you look at it. Where I like a really crunchy sound, almost not quite genty, but getting towards gent. Still thick, but not a whole lot of low end. And this is, it kind of has a classic Marshall sound. So if that's what you're going for, this is really good. It's really good for lead guitar. Mainly for rhythm guitar, I thought it was not lacking, but for the style that I do, not perfect. Really good, super good. Very nice. Okay, so this one is the TWA Flyboys Overdrive FB02. So it's the second one in the series, I guess. This one is super light. It feels like it's really tough, but still extraordinarily light. Even lighter than, even lighter than some of the micro pedals. Which, of course, if we have to take weight into account because this is something that you're in theory, will put in your bag for your guitar that you're going to be bringing on the plane with you. You want it to be as light as possible. And it sounded great. It had just kind of the sound that I was going for, really. It's got the three knobs, the three typical knobs, tone, gain, and volume. Well, in this case, it says level. And then it has this hot and warm switch, which basically gives you more output, I think. And I don't know, man. This one was really super good. Definitely a front runner at this point. Okay, let's take a look. So this is the first of 5 overdrive pedals from Tone City. So Tone City, very new company, as is Flyboys, actually. And they're coming out strong with a lot of different options for mini pedals. I think they have like 12 or 13 different types, so maybe more at this point. And of course, 5 of those are overdrive pedals. So if you can't find one that you like, you might be having a, you might be too picky. This one is maybe based on like a Klon, I think. It's very transparent, and rather than having a tone knob, it has this touch knob. And what that is that it's actually kind of a clean and dirty blend, which obviously for what I was doing in the demo doesn't really make any sense for my style. I still thought it sounded really good. I thought it was like a great boost, kind of. It really thickened up the sound, even with the gain knob up a pretty good ways. It didn't get noisy or feedbacky. So yeah, for like blues, rock, country, this one is pretty great. Not really good for metal. So the Mandragora is actually a preamp overdrive. So it has an incredible amount of output. It's one of the knobs is a preamp volume knob. Basically, you can get, I think it was like 30 decibels of output of boost. So that's impressive. I wonder if you could actually, because it's a preamp, if you could use it in front of like a what's it called? Like a cab sim. We've actually got one that I'm going to be showing you in a later video. So something like this, something like a preamp pedal, you might be able to pop it in front of a cab sim pedal and actually use that as like a whole mini rig. We're going to try that and see how it works. So anyway, this one had a lot going for it. Typical 3-knob setup. Aside from that preamp thing, very genty. If you crank up that preamp a little bit and the tone a good ways, you can gent for days. It's an attractive purple color. Yeah. Other than that, kind of good sounding, but kind of a typical tube screamer kind of thing. This one, also Bad Horse from Tone City. A more typical tube screamer sound. Just maybe the most straightforward of the Tone City pedals. I liked it. I keep saying that. I liked it. I liked them all. There was not one of these that I did not like. I love overdrive pedals. So I guess I need to be more specific. I didn't think that there was anything particularly special about this one. It did the job of a tube screamer, kind of middle of the road, whatever. The Kaffir Lime from Tone City. This one is cool because it has separate high and low knobs. I love these little tiny knobs because, like, they're, you know, even on a regular size pedal, how often are you messing with these unless you're doing a lot of reamping for different stuff, you know? If you're using it for live purposes, you're pretty much going to set it and forget it. So the smaller they are, the less chance you're gonna biff it, you know. And because it had a separate high and low knob, you can have basically more tonal options. You know, you can cut out a little bit of the highs and a little bit of the lows, and smooth out that high end a little bit, as well as tighten up the loose butthole of the bass frequencies. So probably the most flexible of the Tone City ones if you're looking for a little more control over your tone. Now this one, the Dry Martini, I'm not really sure what the deal with this one was. It was had this strong switch. So I think, you know, some of these are made in China, and I think sometimes a little bit of the information gets lost in translation. I think the strong switch was basically the same as like this hot and warm switch on the Flyboys. Basically just more or less output, which of course, like I was saying, the Mandragora has that as a knob rather than a switch. It might have some more to do with the actual clipping circuit, which, like I said, I'm not really using this for the internal clipping, but more as a boost and a tonal control center. So aside from that, basically just a tube screamer. Okay. Up next, I believe we had the Grass from Hotone. So this is beyond a mini pedal. This is one of their micro pedals. It is super tiny. I'm actually thinking about, this is a little ridiculous, but I'm considering also putting together a micro pedal board using just these little teeny tiny ones. This is just one of 2 Overdrive pedals that I got, so could be handy for that. I'll have to choose between those 2 if I'm going to do something like that. Anyway, this is straight up Tube Screamer with a bright switch. So I found that actually the thing that stood out the most about this one was that it had the lowest output by far. I had to crank it up pretty good, both volume and a little bit of the gain knob, actually a considerable amount of the gain knob, to get that saturated sound that I was looking for. So keep that in mind if you're looking at this. It still sounds great. The bright switch makes it a little bit more flexible, you know, if you just need a little bit more of that high end in there. And yeah, other than that, straight up Tube Screamer. Very tiny. If you need something really tiny, this one or this next one are going to be probably your best bet. Up next, we've got the Husky Drive from Joyo, and this is part of their Iron Man series, cleverly named because of the little Iron Man style mask that pops up. So, although I realize that doesn't actually say Iron Man series on it anywhere, it says it on the website. So, whereas this one was extraordinarily low output, the Husky Drive is super high output. I found it to be almost overwhelming, actually. These little tiny knobs go a long way, a long way. So this one has a high-low knob that's kind of actually more like a switch. It only has 2 options. So that's, I think, another variation on like this strong or hot-warm switch. So basically high or low output. Other than that, once again, just volume, gain, and tone. Although I thought this one sounded a bit better than the grass from Hotone. Just had a different character to it. I can't really exactly describe it. That could be a result of just the higher grinding output on this one. Really like the design of this too. Not like you're gonna really biff these, but that'll keep you from, because it's so small, there's a much higher likelihood that you will step on those controls with your foot when you're, in the moment. And having this little cover will keep you from doing that. Whereas, so this one has a little bar that's supposed to help with that. And that probably helps, but this is kind of foolproof. Okay. Last but not least, the Mooer Husky Drive. I thought this one was another more flexible version of the, not the Tube Screamer this time. I believe this is modeled after the OCD pedal, which is a different kind of overdrive, basically. It's just a different flavor of overdrive than a Tube Screamer. So it does have a different sound. I really like this switch, which is a high pass and low pass switch. High pass or low pass. You can either have one or the other. Basically, what that's useful for is, well, for me, I like I said, a crunchy rhythm tone. And for that, you need a lot of high pass. Or I like a nice smooth lead tone. And for that, I like a good bit of low pass. So that affects basically how far your tone knob will go, and you can even have some mid-range cut while still having a bit of high pass to smooth out for your lead sound. So that's cool. That makes it one of the more flexible ones on the board, I think. All right, so now the moment of truth. We've gone through all 10 of these. You've heard them all. Hopefully you've done a little bit of A/Bing with them and you've figured out which one that you think sounds the best for the sound that you use. So now it's time for me to pick the one that I like the best for the sound that I'm going for. Once again, this isn't a matter of winning or losing, okay? And actually, I feel like when it comes to overdrives, the differences are a lot more subtle than in some other kinds of pedals. A lot of people just say, a Tube Screamer is a Tube Screamer, and that's that. That's not necessarily true, but at the same time, they're not so vastly different that you couldn't get a great sound out of pretty much any of these. The only one that I would say is the exception to that is the Sweet Cream, which is not, it's not that you get a bad sound, it's just vastly different from the rest of them. And yeah, so here's the thing. I like different types of overdrives for different sounds. So sometimes when I'm reamping, I'll use a somewhat more cutting overdrive pedal for a rhythm sound and something a little smoother for a lead sound. Now, I have to pick one pedal basically to take with me. So because the majority of what you're playing probably most of the time is going to be rhythm guitar, even if you're the lead guitarist, which I usually am. And I thought this one sounded just killer on the rhythm guitar parts and also really good on leads. And just the fact of how light it is. So my choice is the TWA Flyboys Overdrive. It's not the most flexible of the bunch, but because I thought it sounded pretty much the best in with any settings, it's a little bit foolproof, And yeah, so that's the one that I'm going to put on my board. But if I could pick two, one for rhythm and one for lead, I would also take along the SL Drive. Now, of course, as this one is light, this one is heavy. And so that would kind of make up for it. But it's also the toughest, and you got to take that into account. If you're flying around with these pedals and playing a lot of shows in weird places, your stuff's probably going to get bumped and dropped and all that. And it's also heavy and tough enough that you could probably use it as a projectile weapon. So that's something to definitely take into account. So yeah, it'd be cool if I could take two with me and have, you know, the lead one for my lead sound and this one for my rhythm sound. But, you know, we're trying to keep it compact. So thanks for watching, guys. I'd be really interested to know what it is that you found was the best pedal. Obviously, I had my favorites and all that, but I'm really curious to know which one you like the best. So go ahead and leave a comment, and please subscribe, if for no other reason than just to see how the rest of the series pans out, and see how my pedal board winds up looking. Cool, so I'll catch you on the flip side. I'd like to thank all the companies that sent us pedals for this, namely Xotic Effects, Flyboys, Tone City, Hotone, Joyo, and more. I'd also like to thank Temple Audio for this awesome pedal board that we've been using for these shootouts, and especially Pig Hog Cables for providing us with some really stellar guitar cables to use for this and our other videos.